Hey all, Sally here. Starting on a little early because I know when I get on a Facebook Live, I'm always like, oh my gosh, am I in the right place? So I wanted to give everybody a chance to grab your pen, paper, sit down, maybe grab a cup of tea before you do, because we're gonna dive into experiment number 6 today. And I just couldn't wait to tell you. So I'm going to have to hold my tongue until the 9 o'clock hour here on Eastern time, which should be right now. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is you are seeing this. Welcome, Sally DeSestri here. Your blissful journey is my mission in life, to create that because I believe we deserve it. And one of the ways that we can get what we want is to actually understand the power that we do have. One of the best, easiest ways, most fun ways that I've found to kind of experiment with this. And it's fun to experiment with others as well. However, we are going over Pam Grout's book, E Squared, and we're on experiment number 6 right now. So I hope you've been having as much fun as I have. Let's dive right in. Experiment number 6 is the superhero principle. Your thoughts and consciousness impact matter. The course of the world is not predetermined by physical laws. The mind has the power to affect groups of atoms and even tamper with the odds of atomic behavior. I mean, this isn't said by some person who's all fluffy and unicorns and rainbows. This was said by Sir Arthur Stanley Eddington, English mathematician and astrophysicist. The premise. Japanese scientist Dr. Masaru Emoto spent 15 years researching the effects of human speech, thoughts, and emotions on physical matter. Dr. Emoto chose one of the matter's 4 traditional elements, water, to see how it responds to words, music, prayers, and blessings. Using more than 10,000 samples of water, Emoto and his research assistants spoke to, played for, and asked monks to recite prayers over water. The samples were then frozen and the resulting ice crystals were examined under a microscope. And she goes on to say that even the human body is 90% water. And so every cell that's affected by water, whether that be in our world or in our bodies, is going to be affected by this experiment, right? What Emoto found is that when scientists treated the water kindly by saying such things as "I love you" and "thank you," the resulting water crystals became clear and beautifully formed. But when Emoto and his team talked negatively to the water, screaming such snide comments as "I hate you" or "you idiot," the crystals formed dark, ugly holes. When Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel was played, the resulting frozen crystal split in 2. Dr. Emoto's works, Google search them, EMOTO, and he's all over the place. So it's really interesting. The pictures are gorgeous. The power of perception. My mind is a bad neighborhood. I try not to go into it alone. Anne Lamott, American author. And that's why we're in this group, right? When I was born on February 17th, 1956, my father took one look at me lying there helplessly in my pink bassinet and announced to my mother that I was the ugliest baby he had ever seen. Needless to say, my mother was devastated, and for me, a minutes-old human being, it was decided that beauty, or the lack thereof, was destined to color every moment of my life. And she goes on to say that she was delivered with forceps and the doctor smashed her nose, and it eventually grew back, kind of came back to the original shape it was meant to have. However, her ego remained disfigured. And so she scoured beauty magazines and tried all sorts of things, different hairstyles, and she did 50 sit-ups a day. I mean, she was just all these well-meaning attempts. I remained less than beautiful. No matter what I did, I never could seem to get my looks together. How could I? My very existence centered around my dad's ugly baby statement. It would go against it would dishonor everything I knew. My dad, my mom, myself. And then she goes on to say all the things that happened. And whenever she got something so she got contacts because she wore glasses. So she thought that would make a difference. And so as soon as she got the contacts, her skin broke out. And then when she kind of got that figured out, her sister said, "Oh my goodness, your teeth are crooked." And so everything just led on to something else. You see, my body had no choice but to follow the blueprints my thoughts had given it. About this time, I discovered self-help books. It was an inevitable meeting. Any college freshman who thinks she closely resembles Frankenstein needs all the self-esteem boosting she can find. I started with Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer and read Barbara Walters' book on how to make conversation. I learned how to win friends and influence people, how to empower myself with positive thinking, and how to think and grow rich. All the reading eventually started to change the way I felt about myself. I actually started finding things I liked. Even things about my looks. I was tall, for one thing, which meant I could eat more or less anything I wanted and not gain weight. My thick hair was an asset. And my best friend's mother said I had perfectly shaped eyebrows. Instead of looking at things I disliked, I started concentrating on things I liked. Like magic, my looks started to improve. And I gave up the limiting thoughts. I began to see my own beauty. The less I chastened that poor little ogre in the mirror, the more she started to change. The less I tried to change myself, the more I changed. Even her eyesight got better. Her complexion cleared up. And although I didn't realize it at the time, I was changing my looks during those visits to satisfy my dad's belief about me, rather what I thought were his beliefs about me. I now know my dad's remark was simply an offhand comment. He meant no harm. But because I didn't know it at the time, I took this ugly baby comment to heart and acted it out in rich, full, vivid detail. Nobody else in the family wore glasses. Everyone else had 20/20 vision. Nobody else in my family wore braces. They all had picture-perfect teeth. She was her own creation. Anecdotal evidence. Henceforth, I whimper no more, postpone no more, need nothing. From this hour, I ordain myself loosed from limits and imaginary lines. Walt Whitman, American poet. Sickness is optional. I should probably have my head examined for including this section in the book. You'll notice I've hidden it in the middle of a long chapter near the back. It's not that you haven't heard these ideas before, that so-and-so's cancer was caused by unresolved anger and that stress can turn hair white overnight. But what I'm going to say is that We've been led down the garden path by a bloated, greedy medical system that has convinced us that disease is inevitable. I'm not knocking doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals, 99.9% of whom are caring, committed, and well-meaning. No, they're just as hoodwinked as we are. What I'm suggesting is that the erroneous consciousness of all of us has resulted in major computer glitches. Instead of seeing sickness as a problem, something to correct, we accept it as a fact of life. We've all agreed to this arbitrary set of rules that says sickness can't be escaped. Illness is natural. Most of us can't imagine perfect health. The education we all get is that we have no power, that we don't know anything, explains Mayer Schneider, a man who cured himself of blindness. But that's not true. Within each of us, everything we need is everything we need to know. When he was born in Lviv, Ukraine, in 1954, Schneider was eye-crossed and had glaucoma, astigmatism, nystagmus, and several other hard-to-pronounce diseases that affect the eyes. His cataracts were so severe he was forced to endure 5 major operations before he turned 7. The last one broke the lens of his eyeball, and by the time he was in 2nd grade, he was legally blind. When he was 17, he met a friend named Isaac with a different message than that of the doctors and surgeons. Isaac, who was a year younger than he was, actually had the gall to tell him, if you want, you can train yourself to see. No one had ever had that kind of faith in him before. All Schneider had ever heard before was, you poor, poor blind thing. And his family discouraged him from getting his hopes up. Sure, go ahead and try the exercises, but they weren't really confident. Eventually, Schneider regained enough vision to read, walk, run, and even drive. And today he proudly possesses a California driver's license and operates a self-healing center. When Barbra Streisand was a young girl growing up in Brooklyn, she fell in love with the movies. She wanted nothing more to be a glamorous movie star. Unfortunately, her widowed mother was dirt poor, and Barbara wasn't exactly Grace Kelly material. Any reasonable career counselor would have encouraged her to pursue a different goal. After all, honey, you have an unconventional nose and, well, how can I put this politely? You being an actress is like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wanting to be a jockey. But Barbara's intentions were so strong that I believe she manipulated circumstances through the only pathway she could, by manifesting a voice so powerful that it led to stardom on Broadway and eventually to movies. Yeah, roll your eyes if you want to, call me deluded, but here are the facts. No one else in Barbara's family could sing. No one else had musical talent. Matter does not control you, you control matter. We would rather be ruined than change. We would rather die in our dread than climb the cross of the moment and let our illusions die. W.H. Auden, Anglo-American poet. When Terry McBride was 22, he ruptured a disc in his back while working construction. And he tried a lot of things, muscle relaxers and the surgeons and osteopathy. And he was told that he'd go to the hospital and be in a brace for 6 months. 2 days after the surgery, had a dangerously high fever, and he had contracted E. coli. And by the 5th surgery, I mean, it had gone into his bones. I mean, he was really having a tough time. And the doctors kept on saying, you know, the medications weren't working, the antibiotics weren't working. And they kept on, you know, looking for things. And now I'd studied, and he says, now I'd studied under one of the great metaphysicians, John Wayne, you know, the actor. And when someone in the movies told the Duke they had to remove his leg, he said, that's okay, do it anyway. McBride points out. But when the doctor went on to say that if the infection were as bad as they all thought, he could also lose his other foot, control of his bowels and bladder, and there was a good chance he'd end up sexually impotent. Quite honestly, McBride said, that's where they made their mistake. Now, I don't know about you, but I showed up on this planet to be a happy little boy who liked myself. But it didn't take long to learn that the people in authority knew more about me than I did. I learned that I needed to pay attention and that it was the teachers who were going to tell me how good I was in school. The coaches were going to decide if I had any athletic ability. And I learned early on to look outside myself for who I was. Now, I probably would have given them a leg, McBride continues. But when those doctors started insisting that there was no possible way to come out of this surgery hole, I decided right then and there that nobody was going to tell me who I was. I decided that very night that no longer was anyone with a fancy name badge going to determine my destiny. And so he started saying such thing at everybody. Was saying, right on, hold fast to your dreams. But after 10 surgeries, people began urging him to face reality, to quit focusing on his petty, ego-centered personal priorities. And so they'd all given up on him. And even as a good fundamentalist, I couldn't buy that I deserved 18 surgeries. Maybe I'd sinned enough for 4 or 5, but not 18, McBride explains. And they even sent him to a psychiatrist and said, man, it's time to take off the rose-colored glasses. He showed him all his medical records and said, Terry McBride's problems are not curable. He will have permanent disability and ongoing surgeries for the rest of his life. But I'm not my medical records, McBride insisted. I'm not my past. There's a power in me. I live in a spiritual universe, and spiritual law can set me free. Don't you think your body would have healed by now if it was going to heal? The psychiatrist asked, but he didn't give up. And finally, long after most of us would have given up, he walked out of the hospital a free and whole, strapping young man. And now he travels around the world, teaching people the truth of their divine magnificence. The method: there are no limitations to the self except those you believe in. Seth, disembodied teacher, channeled by Jane Roberts. And since we don't have access to all Masaru Emoto's microscopes and research, we're going to sprout some green bean seeds. Now, this takes a week. So what I'm going to do, and you can choose to do whatever you want. I think the green bean seeds are great, but I have a magnolia tree that was damaged in some of the snowy ice storms that we had. And I'm going to go out and talk to it. Oh, I gave you a heads up. So you're going to plant these green bean seeds. So you need a cardboard egg carton, potting soil, and green bean seeds. Plant 2 beans in each of the 12 slots in the egg carton and place it near the window. Water it every couple days and make the following conscious intention. With my innate energy, I will that the beans on the left side of the egg carton grow faster than the beans on the right. And then just write your observations down over the next 7 days. By the end of the week, you should see evidence that your intention has manifested. In the meantime, you can experiment with something scientists call applied kinesiology. It may sound complicated, but it's just that your muscles are instantly become weak when your body is exposed to harmful substances. Many of you have done this. And you touch your thumb and middle finger of each hand to form a ring or 2 rings and link them together. So you're going to do this, right? And then you pull the linked fingers and see how strong they are. And now you want to say, my name is, and say your name. At the same time, exert the amount of pressure. Assuming you're not telling a fib, and you'll be strong and steady. And now say, my name is Julia Roberts. And do you feel the change? I mean, I could feel a little bit of a slip in my fingers. I was trying, but I could feel a little slip. So do this and try several true and false statements until you get the calibration down. If the circle holds, it indicates a positive response. If the fingers on the right hand were able to break the connection on your left hand, the answer is no way. So you can test with the following. I am a huge dork ball. I am a loving, passionate, peaceful, and happy person. I hate my body. I am strong and powerful. So our lab report, and you know how to find the this if you need it. Lab report, the principle, the superhero principle, the theory, your thoughts and consciousness impact matter. The question, is it possible to affect the physical world with my attention? The hypothesis, if I focus my attention on a row of green beans, I can make them sprout faster. Time required 7 days. So you write today's date and the time. The approach, I will focus my attention on a row of green beans. I will send those seeds positive vibes and expect them to be influenced by my energy. Expect them to be influenced by my energy. And then you put your research notes in. And like I said, I'm going to do this with my magnolia tree. I'll take a photo today and let you know. People need to realize that their thoughts are more primary than their genes, because the environment which is influenced by our thoughts controls our genes. Bruce Lipton, PhD, American cell biologist. All right. Oh my gosh, guys. So great book. Enjoy it. And let me know how it goes. I'm super excited. Let me know what you choose to do. Let's go out and create what we want. Bye for now. I'll be here on Monday. So that's not 7 days, but we're just kind of in a routine. If you are doing the seeds, just keep going and we'll pick up something else. You can do 2 things. It's not that hard. You do it all the time. Take care. See you.